Iannielli, and I am a male to female transgender woman. And I'm just doing a video to kind of give a little summary of what I'm going through and how my day was today. We're actually digging out of a pretty significant blizzard. We had probably around 2 feet of snow. I don't know for sure. I hadn't gone out. I had intended to do some shoveling, but I'm just recuperating from being sick with the flu. So I don't want to take a chance right now and shovel, so I'm going to get up early tomorrow and probably spend 2 to 3 hours shoveling. And, I'm getting up in age now, so I have to be very concerned about over strenuous activities. I certainly want to exercise and lose weight, but I have to be careful, especially when it comes to shoveling and physical exertion on the body. It's very common that people at risk can have heart attacks just by shoveling snow, so you have to be very careful. And I don't take that lightly. I know a friend personally who had a heart attack while shoveling snow, so it's very serious. So, I am not like in a working situation, so it's not like I had a day off. I actually have a day off every day, so I'm kind of getting used to that. But it was certainly exciting with the snow event, and I think we could have had a lot more. From the reports we were receiving, they were saying that we could have got up to 3 feet of snow, and I don't think it was that bad. We did get a lot, but I think it could have been a lot worse, so we were fortunate. And the fun part is over now. Now it's a dig out. So, I enjoyed the time when it was snowing and being in the house. Now tomorrow, the reality is that I have to dig out. My wife started shoveling, but it's too much for her, and I have to try to help out. And even though I'm not really keen on shoveling, I really have to. So I'll plan to do that tomorrow. It's just too cold now to do it, and it's too dark. And I am at this point in my life, focusing on my son, and it's hard for me because he's away at school, and I miss him terribly, and I try to call him every day. Actually, I tried to call him before, but I only got a message center, so I'm hoping that they call me back. But I'm just wanting to make sure that my son is doing well at school and he's well adjusted. I've also wanted him to be okay with my own personal transition from male to female. I am a father influence in my son's life, and I always told him that no matter what, despite the fact that I'm transitioning from a male to a female, I will always be a father to my son, and I want him to know that, and I want him to address me as his father, because I am, and I will never have him think otherwise. He has a mother, and he has a father, and I'm his father, and I'm proud of that. And I think that Maddie is my proudest accomplishment, and without him in my life, I don't know where I would be. So even though I'm very happy about my own personal growth as a transgender woman, I'm very proud of my son, and I want to do all I can to help him and support him and be there for him. And I have done videos in the past explaining my own personal introspective on autism and transgender, and I definitely can draw parallels between the two. And I would have to spend a whole topic on that in a video, but definitely there are many parallels between someone who's transgender and someone who's autistic. And in fact, there have been stories documented where there have been autistic children or adults that also identify as transgender. So that also is something that has been documented. I think since I've been living in the shadows and in secrecy most of my life, I have come full circle now in my transition, and I have become more open about it. And I think it's important to express what I feel, whether it's in my writings or on my videos. I think it's important to come to terms with how you feel about yourself and the life that you feel you need to live. I had come to the reality that if I didn't transition, I would probably rather die, and I didn't want that to happen. Certainly I wanted to be there for my son, and I was miserable living as a male, and I have no ill feelings towards male gender. It's just me personally, I couldn't identify as a male. I always dressed like a girl, whether it's in my mind or physically, and I just felt more comfortable when I was able to dress and present myself as a female. And it wasn't easy for me, it really wasn't. I had to struggle with it, and I wasn't open about my transgender struggles. I kind of tried to deal with them on my own terms and get through the pain that I felt. I felt emotional pain, and I felt isolation, and I struggled with depression, and I just didn't feel happy about my body. I felt very awkward and uncomfortable, and I always wondered why I was born this way, and I couldn't figure out why I was given a girl mind and a boy body. It just didn't make sense to me. But I knew that I had to try my best to live as normal a life as I could, and I wanted to try to fit the model of growing into young adulthood. And since I couldn't present as a female, I had no choice but to live as a male, and I did what was expected of me, and I wanted certainly to continue on with my schooling and have a career, and I wanted to marry and have a family, and despite my struggles, I tried desperately to fit in and to come to terms with my struggles, but my whole life was centered around my internal struggle with my gender dysphoria. I knew when I was a young kid that didn't identify as a boy. I knew at a very young age, I was 3, when I knew deep down in my heart I was a girl, and I wanted to dress in a girl's outfit and be treated like a girl, and I wanted to wear a dress and pretty shoes and have my hair done up and, be treated like any other girl. And that's just the way I felt in my heart. And for people who are not transgender, it's very difficult for them to grasp it. But if you live that way and you know in your heart that you're truly transgender, then you eventually will have to come to the reality that you most likely will have to evaluate where you are and where you want to be. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter when you felt the way you did. What truly matters is that you have come to the point where you can no longer fight those feelings anymore, and that you have come to terms with it and have come to live with it and accept it. I think to be transgender is a very positive thing too, and I think it is a unique experience. Not many people know what it feels like, and I know when I'm dressing and living as a female, I'm much happier. And when I started on the female hormones, I certainly noticed positive changes, and I'm very much more comfortable with my skin, now. I definitely feel much more feminized, and I am truly living how I've always felt inside. So now when I look in the mirror and I see a woman looking back at me, I'm very happy. I still have things that I still have to do. I'm very self-conscious in my presentation, and I guess that I am passing well enough that I don't have to worry anymore like I used to. The only thing that I'm self-conscious about at this point is my speaking voice. Unfortunately, I still have a masculine sounding voice, but I'm working on trying to get it to be more feminine, and I think once I can do that, I will feel so much happier. Plus, eventually I want to have a sex change operation and live as a female completely. I am living as a woman full time, and I think the sex change operation would be tremendous for me, because then it would allow me to live and experience life as a woman completely, and that's all I ever really wanted. I'm trying to still stay with my wife and trying to develop the sense of family, and obviously my son is my most important thing in life to focus on, and I want him to be happy and to develop as any typical teenage boy. And I want him to feel comfortable and confident. And I only can tell you what I went through when I was going through puberty, as he's going through it now. And it wasn't an easy thing, especially if you're going through transgender related issues like I had been, and feeling unsure and depressed about it. I didn't really understand why I had to live in a male body, knowing deep down in my heart I was a female. it was quite a struggle for me, and I always wanted to be beautiful and feminine and wear pretty outfits, and I always enjoyed wearing dresses and fantasizing and, just living as a princess in my mind. And, you know, I definitely was very much a girl, and, you know, uh, there was no real signs of me being male, aside from the fact that I pretended and I tried to live up to the expectations uh, that I had to fulfill as a male. Certainly, there are many expectations of you when you're growing up, and I tried to live and develop just like any other guy, and I tried to establish healthy, normal relationships with women, but I was an extremely shy person, and I didn't really have much experience. And basically, the first woman I met was my wife on a blind date, arranged through a mutual therapist. So that was quite unique. But we did bond, and we had a good relationship, despite the fact that we both were pretty shy. But I was fortunate that I met her, and I was happy that we eventually decided to marry. And then when Maddie was born, it was right at a good time, and we were very happy, and it just was a beautiful thing. And at that point in my life, I thought, things were going well, and that I could deal with my gender struggle and kind of just put it away and never have to worry about it anymore. And for the longest time, that seemed to be the case. But the one thing that you'll realize if you're truly transgender is that those feelings are constant. And even though they may lie dormant for a while, over time they're going to come back, and eventually they're going to be most certainly very difficult to have to deal with. And that's what really transpired in my case. I was trying to put my efforts into my work and my family, and not have to, worry about my internal gender struggle. I wanted more to focus on the seriousness of my son's issues with his autism, and with just trying to have a normal life. And at that time, when we were ready to buy a house, it took planning, so I was very caught up in making the financial arrangements and planning out that. So I got caught up in life's issues, and I was excited when we were married and expecting. It was the best time in my life. I never really had that benefit, and I thought, wow, this is amazing that life is happening the way it is. And despite all the feelings I had as a kid, I finally thought, maybe things will be okay, and I'll finally get to live the life that I was supposed to live in the male role. But if you realize the feelings that you have are very much there, it's just that you try desperately to tuck them away so they don't keep popping up. and haunting you, and that's essentially what it was like for me, and trying to deal with my transgender struggle. And one of the ways I dealt with it was by cross-dressing in secret, and I would go out and buy dresses and very feminine clothing, and also the lingerie, and when I had time where I could dress and be alone, I would, you know, take advantage of that and dress and take it all in and express that feminine side of my life. And for when I did that, it was very pleasurable, and I was extremely happy, and I knew deep down in my heart that that was the way I was supposed to be. You know, I knew that I was meant to be a girl, but you know, I tried desperately to live as a male and to be a father and a husband and to make a living and provide for the family, you know, and eventually save to buy a house and do all the things that was expected of me. And I'm not saying that women don't do that, they most certainly do, but if you're a male, you're raised with the expectations that you need to provide for your family. You need to be the one basically who's considered the breadwinner, and that you are in control, and that you're strong in your mind. And you know, even though I grappled with my gender struggles and not sure what direction my life was going to go in, I knew I had responsibilities. I knew I had a family relying on me. I knew I had a son who needed me. So I tried my best to live the life that was expected of me, and to fit in and to work hard and contribute. And you know, it was not an easy progression, but you know, it was something that I knew I really had no choice about. I had to live the way I was born, and to portray my role in society as a man, and you know, live and make a living and do all the things expected of me as a husband and a father, and certainly had no reservations about that. You know, I was trying to do the best I could, but deep down I knew that I would have to face my gender struggles someday in my life, and I wasn't sure when exactly that would be, but as all transgender individuals know, there comes a point when you do realize that you have to concentrate on your true gender identity and determine if and when you would embark on transition. Now, there are many transgender people that never transition, and they try desperately to live normal lives in the birth gender that they were assigned. And you know, my own personal feelings about that is that I can definitely see where that is a typical reaction for many transgender people, because their lives are pretty well set, especially if they're married and have a family, and that they have a career. So they're fully entrenched in their male identity, and they also have their children and their spouses, their wives. So it definitely is a very difficult situation if you eventually start to try to process what's going on and eventually come to realize that you also consider yourself transgender and that you have to make some decisions. And those decisions are very difficult, and you don't know really the ramifications of them, but you know that you're taking risks when you decide that you are what you feel in your heart and soul, which is that you're transgender, and then you have to make decisions affecting how you will address those matters, and whether you plan to transition or not. You still have some big decisions ahead of you, and I don't envy people in that position because I know full well what it's like. You know, I lived as a transgender woman all my life, and I was very much a woman in my mind, my heart, and my soul, but I never really told anybody. I had to kind of live with that, and it was very traumatic for me, and I didn't know how I could really address those feelings I had, but I knew that they were very real, and I would have to eventually try to develop a plan. And if transition was in the cards for me, then I would have to start doing the things that I needed to, which was going for therapy and trying to figure out how I would seek the necessary medical attention so I could start a regimen of the hormones that would help transform my male body into a female body. And, you know, something like that doesn't happen overnight. When you start to transition with medical intervention, you need to realize that it is a process, and eventually you're going to see results, and most likely you will be very happy with the results. I certainly can attest to that. You know, initially when I started on the estradiol and the spironolactone, it seemed very slow, the changes. I really couldn't see much. And I was very disappointed, and I started to doubt my transition and whether I could pull it off and start looking more like a female. I didn't have that self-confidence that I needed as I embarked on my journey of transition. And in reality, all transitioning is coming to learn to deal with your struggle and to come and embrace yourself and accept yourself for who you are. And once you can do that, I think that you're on the right track. You're on the right path, and you will eventually find true happiness, and will certainly be able to find true